Welcome in, folks. Week 1 is upon us, and we are kicking it off. So we're here focusing on your favorite players that are undervalued. It is myself, JMolar05, along with the guy who's been on streams every day for what feels like a year straight, Mr. Jeremy Schulman, FFR. How you doing today, Jeremy?
Listen, man, I'm just happy I don't have to host for once. I'm happy I'm not by myself. It feels like it's just been you, Jesse, just bailing me out in the weekends. But we, if you don't know, we just wrapped our 30 mocks for 30 days series. So happy about that. If you have a draft tonight or tomorrow, or if you're like myself, Tuesday, bringing it right up to the edge of the season, go check that out. It's on Twitter. It's on YouTube. It is everywhere you want it to be.
Yeah, for those that have been with us on the channel for a long time, we have spent quite a few times. I have been MIA a lot this summer, so Jeremy's been carrying it, so I very much appreciate that. But we are going to dive into it because we were just talking about it off screen. We have 4 days. 4 days until the season starts. It felt like it was an eternity, then all of a sudden it's here upon us. So, yeah, we're going to dive into it. We're going to look at players that we feel are undervalued according to ADP, players that we have, if you've been paying attention to the channel, that we've liked throughout the offseason. We're kind of going to avoid some of those players since you know them, that we've constantly been hyping them up. So you won't see Waddle, you won't see certain other guys on the channel today. We're going to differentiate a little bit. Do you want to start out with the high-profile guys, or do you want to go from the low-profile guys all the way up to the high-profile? How do you want to do this, Jeremy?
Yeah, let's do some high-profile guys first, and I think by the end of the show, we'll get to the guys who are potentially still on your waiver wire that we can hook you up with. But just in case you are unaware, we do a roundtable here typically every Saturday, but Saturday was a little bit busy with week 1 of the college football season. So we had SC and Spencer and a bunch of guys, a bunch of guests there kind of going through that. They're going to be doing that every single Saturday, but of course we'll have the roundtable Saturdays because at this time, well, or earlier than this time, at this time games will be going on, but earlier than this time on Sundays we do the start sit. So roundtable will be Saturdays about 3:00. But it is an opportunity for you to ask any sort of questions that you have, redraft, dynasty, Debbie, whatever, and we'll answer those. So we'll go through our stuff, ask your questions. We're here for you.
Yeah, welcome in, Jamie. Once again, you are one of our biggest fans. We very much appreciate you every time on screen. We will get to this question here a little bit in the flowers and a little bit later when we kind of reference guys similar ADP. Yeah, we'll talk about that. But we're gonna start with the hard portfolio guys. The biggest one that stands out to me is Nico Collins and his ADP. I have not understood this entire offseason. We were actually on a Discord and somebody was like saying that Nico is capped. And I was like, what do you mean capped? Like wide receiver 1 is his ceiling? Is that the cap we're talking about? So if you're looking at sleeper ADP or consensus ADP, Nico Collins goes in the mid-second round range right now. So if you start out your draft with like a hammer running back and then he's just staring you in the middle of the second, like that, I think that's the best way to go about doing that because I don't see personally, like I have Nico as a top 5 wide receiver. He's in that basically tier 1. I know everyone loves Jamar Chase. I have it with him, Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. Then you can throw Puka, Neighbors, and those guys. It's all kind of similar for me. So how are you feeling about Nico Collins and his ADP? Do you think he's a smash at that cost, or are you more a little like tepid than myself?
Yeah, 100%. I think Nico Collins is a first-round pick. And what'd you say his ADP was? Early second?
Yeah, it's like mid-second. It's been rising up. So like lately it's up to the early second, but earlier in this offseason it was late second. So people are starting to catch on. If we pull up, what is it? The Draft Sharks ADP, where is he at? Nico Collins. Yeah, he's basically 201 right now.
Yep.
So he's kind of the back end of the truly elite wide receivers. He goes behind Puka. He goes behind Malik, Amon-Ra, CeeDee, Justin Jefferson, and like Jamar Chase. So he's like wide receiver 6. So I think like we're basically drafted him and you're getting a discount just because we talk about this. He's never been fully healthy an entire season. That's the biggest drawback with Nico. If he's been healthy the entire year, on a per target basis, there's nobody more efficient in the NFL the last 2 years. It's Nico Collins. Per targets, he gets 0.6 fantasy points per target. So he basically gets that every time he gets the target his way, he's almost getting you a point. So he's just been incredible. That offense, I know we talk about the offense pieces around him. There's a lot of uncertainty with there. You know you can count on Stroud. You know you're going to get Nico. I don't know what's going on with that run game. It's chaos. We'll talk about that running back group a little bit later, how we might be mentioning certain guys that you could pick up under 20% roster in sleeper leagues. But for me, I just think the offense is going to flow through Nico. And if we remember, he was pushing almost 20 points per game last year. It's just the injuries hit him. So I think that's the brilliant discount in him. Where do you have him ranked? Like, do you think that's the perfect spot for him in rankings, according to like behind Amon-Ra, behind CeeDee, behind Puka, those guys?
Yeah, it's perfect because I mean we're not bringing up CeeDee in this conversation because CeeDee's basically wide receiver 1, but
Yeah.
it's perfect behind. He's perfect behind Neighbors because I think there's a conversation there. But he's perfect behind Puka and perfect behind Amon-Ra because I want Nico more and I want other people ahead of me to take those guys. I think we have question marks with Puka Nacua simply due to the health of Matthew Stafford, the addition of Devontae Adams. We're not exactly sure how that's going to operate. And that defense is getting one step closer to better. They have a functional pass rush. They have the ability to even improve this way. And then, of course, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown in a similar situation. Jameson Williams getting hyped up. New offensive coordinator in town. David Montgomery may be fully healthy and more integrated into this offense. Isaac Tesla, who's there as well. So there's just a lot of question marks in terms of overall volume with some of those guys, depending on how that's all going to work. Those questions don't exist with Nico Collins. Nico Collins is getting all the volume. And if you look at the beginning of last season, when he was fully healthy, when I think Diggs was fully healthy, I think Diggs only missed a game at the beginning of the season. I have to double check that. And Diggs went off last year, right? But 8 targets, 10 targets, 10 targets, 15 targets for Nico Collins in his 4 healthy games to start the season, 117, 135, 86, and 151 yards. Only 2 touchdowns, but Nico Collins is the only game in town here in Houston. Like you said, the run game is terrible. I don't care about the bad offensive line. CJ Stroud's going to sling it. Nico Collins is going to hit 140 targets easily.
Yes. Yeah. And those that remembered, he got injured in that game against Buffalo, the week 5 game. He housed like a 60-yard touchdown. He hurt his hamstring on it. He still got you 15 points in that game because he did that. Their offense just really went in the tank after that Nico Collins injury. It was clear how important he was because if we look back to last season, there was a discussion between Nico and Tank Dell. Like there was a discussion on who the wide receiver 1 was. I know this seems like an eternity ago, but when we look at this time last year, there was a coin flip between these 2 guys. And obviously, it's dramatically changed one way for Nico. Nico solidified himself as one of the premier elite receivers in the wider NFL, where our boy Tank, it's not gone too well for him. So I think if you can get him in the second round and smash, even like the 1-2 turn, it's interesting that him and McCaffrey, 2 like the most impactful players you can get, are getting that like injury discount because CMC is more like the mid to late and Nico's right there. So if you start your draft like McCaffrey, Nico, like I would personally be loving that. And I just love CMC, but yeah, I think it's a really good value pick to go. So yeah, just draft Nico Collins and enjoy success.
Agreed.
You just have to worry about the injuries. It is what it is. It's fantasy football. I like the variant, so I dive into it. If you don't want to do it, you can pass. It's okay. All right, let's go. We're going to move down a little bit here. Let's hit on the Cowboys because it gets into a really interesting perspective because Pickens is the guy that goes in the middle of 6. He's like 606 in drafts. Him and Dak, like the Dak stack attack is just a much cheaper version. So if you don't want to spend the 2nd or 3rd overall pick on CeeDee Lamb and you do want to attack this Cowboys offense because we saw that massive trade they made, right? Their defense with Micah Parsons on the field is top in EPA. Without Micah Parsons, it's like bottom 2 in EPA per play. So you see the difference that guy has. He's one of the most impactful defenders in the NFL. What's going to happen? It's going to force Dak in this offense to probably, if not lead the NFL in pass attempts, be near the league leaders in pass attempts. And who does that help? Mr. Pickens. And I know the dude's a head case. I fully have seen it where he wants to just fight everybody any chance he can get. He'd probably just fight grass if the grass was talking to him. You know what I'm saying? Like he's that type of guy, but he's a really talented wide receiver. When we want to chase targets in an offense that's as consolidated as this offense is with a good NFL quarterback, those just look like last year. The year before, where Dak and CeeDee was wide receiver 1, Dak was wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. They proved it for you. Them solidifying that wide receiver 2 spot with Pickens, I think everything's working out for them. It's a good offense, a bad defense. You have a player, you know their role. He's going to be pushing down the field a little bit more. So there will be a little bit more variance with Pickens because he's a downfield threat. But if you're okay living, because you can get him as basically your wide receiver 4, maybe wide receiver 3 on teams, I think that's the perfect time to attack that variance. So in the middle of 6, I'm all aboard the George Pickens train. I know you have been talking about this, so I'm going to pass to you and let you talk about the Pickens-Dak combination, how excited you are about this.
Yeah, Pickens his value doesn't make any sense. He's in the 5th round. The only reason I'm not taking George Pickens is because Travion Henderson used to fall into the 5th round. That's not the case anymore. But Jameson Williams is available in the 5th round, and he's just been my guy. I just think he's going to absolutely explode. And when I say explode, I don't think it's really difficult to envision 1,200 yards for Jameson Williams, roughly 75 catches, 1,200 yards, but then double-digit touchdowns, right? That's definitely within his range of outcomes. If that's the case, he's wide receiver 1. I'm betting on the higher end range of outcomes. Everything we've heard is phenomenal, but that's Jameson Williams. Let's talk about George Pickens. I wouldn't be surprised if George Pickens did the same thing. George Pickens is just an elite go up and get it ball winner. But he can also run routes. He plays the inside. There's no issue if you want to, scheme around with these two wide receivers and him and CeeDee Lamb, move Pickens into the slot for a few plays, do some interesting things on screenplays. Pickens can do it all, and I think his potential is largely untapped in Pittsburgh. Part of the reason he's frustrated, in Pittsburgh, of course, was the quarterback play. But I think part of the reason as well was the strange scheme that was going on and just, dink and dunk and feeding these guys. And maybe it was because of the terrible quarterbacks that they had coming through there in Pittsburgh. But yeah, last year wasn't really it. We saw him kind of force his way out. Dallas jumped on it, and it's CeeDee Lamb who's going to garner all the coverage. George Pickens, who's going to find himself in a lot of one-on-one situations. I also love Ferguson, Jay Ferguson. Why can't I think of his first name?
Yeah, Jake Ferguson.
Jake. I said Jay. Ferguson, because of this situation. So every single, Dallas pass catcher, but also Dak Prescott himself. Dak Prescott, it's like it's an odd year for Dak Prescott. He's following he was QB2, QB8, QB3 in odd years. It's an odd year again, but he is going to find himself chucking the ball roughly 600 times, which is what he did in those odd years to get to those lofty totals. Dak Prescott's a smash. George Pickens is a smash. CeeDee Lamb can very easily once again be the wide receiver 1. Yes. I'm very comfortable taking him as the second overall player in every format. And then Jake Ferguson late. If you don't have a tight end, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas last year was top 3 in pass attempts in the NFL. It kind of went under the radar. They're like 37.5. They were everyone remembers what they did in Cincinnati last year. I think it's kind of similar how T. Higgins is like the clear number 2 in that offense. It's a very similar situation. T. Higgins is also an outside ball winner. You're getting a very similar player. He's not as good as T. Higgins. I'm not saying he's that level player, but he's getting you very close. So you're getting a discount version of T. Higgins with a really good NFL quarterback, a really good offense around him, defense that sucks. It's basically the like we've talked about this with the Rams a little bit. Their ADPs have come up, but I think the Cowboys are a better version, like a discount version of the Bengals. If you don't want to go like the super expensive pick, because Higgins goes in like the 3-4 range, you can get Pickens multiple rounds later, right? And then you come back Dak in like the 11th round because people just I don't know what it is. Don't really seem to care about Dak. They just don't like it. They're just so frustrated with the injuries and the on-off, like it's every other year with Dak. But man, when Dak's cooking and that offense is fully dependent on him, sometimes it can be a little frustrating. But for fantasy, I don't care about that. Like I'm all aboard that. Yeah. How you feeling about? I know we were both all aboard the Lamb train. He's just a really special player. So, yeah, I got no problems with that. If you want to start out with your wide receiver, I guess it depends if it's start 2 wide receivers, start 3 wide receivers. If it's start 3 wide receivers, I think it's a smash for CeeDee. If you want to go running back, start 2, it's fine. But yeah, Jamie, I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, we're assuming Jamar Chase is off the board. He should be.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase, the only reason you don't take Lamb is because if Jamar Chase is on the board. But yeah, I don't mind it. I end up with Lamb if I'm starting at 4. I got Lamb at the 107 in one of the recent league. People will just fade him. And it's because Dak was gone for half the games and CeeDee Lamb suffered in his production, was inconsistent as a result. Still a stud. You got to go with any of these guys. And Pickens is the nephew of Bo Jackson. So there you go.
Makes sense. Freak athlete. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Since we're in this range of wide receiver, let's talk about Flowers for a little bit since Jamie brought it up.
Well, Jesse, can I give you the context to the Zay Flowers stuff?
Yeah, I was curious about this. This is what I was wondering.
Because we'll differ, right? So as we mentioned, Jamie's usually in the chat, giving us information, been on the show a few times as well. Appreciate Jamie and his perspective. Jamie really enjoys Zay Flowers where he's going in drafts. Zay Flowers is roughly a 7th to 8th round pick in your redraft leagues, in 12-team leagues. That being said, for me, I think he's saying, wide receiver 36, right? So he's going as a wide receiver, back in wide receiver 3. He could potentially be a wide receiver 2. You want to take that value. The problem with me is that Zay Flowers does not score touchdowns. And for Zay Flowers has scored 5 touchdowns and 4 touchdowns in 2 complete seasons as an NFL wide receiver. Didn't really miss any games there. Additionally, he's only had roughly 1,000 yards. He's only had roughly 75 receptions in each of those seasons. These are all serviceable, production totals. He's also a great player in an elite offense. We like all of these things, but he doesn't score touchdowns. So if you're putting him up to me against Cortland Sutton, who might be going a little bit earlier, but Ricky Pearsall, Matthew Golden, Stephon Diggs, I want all of those guys with the upside that they bring to touchdown totals, because while Zay Flowers can get there as a player, you think about the situation around him with Mark Andrews in a down season, scoring 11 touchdowns last year. Isaiah Likely, when he's fully healthy and back integrated in the offense. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins because at this point in his career, DeAndre Hopkins is most useful in the red zone. They're talking up Tez Walker as a ball winner. And of course, the biggest issue to touchdown production for Zay Flowers is that tandem in the backfield. It's Derrick Henry, of course, and Lamar Jackson putting touchdowns in on the ground. So for me, Zay Flowers needs to get up to minimum 8 touchdowns to be worth that upside play that you want, because Jamie had mentioned to me, which is a very relevant thing to discuss about Zay. There were, and I'm using Jamie's stats, 6 players had 4 or more games of 110 yards. Those players were Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, who we just talked about, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, and Zay Flowers. And so the problem is, those are 4 games. It was only 6 games where Zay Flowers was a wide receiver 22 or better for you. Most of those games, he was elite. He was a wide receiver 1, but there were also 5 games where he was a wide receiver 66 or worse. So, and then there's this middle range where he's hovering around wide receiver 36 value. So he averages out to be about a wide receiver 36. You're only happy with him in your lineup about a third of the time. And then he disappears about a third of the time. Maybe he can find more consistency, but I do not think he finds many more touchdowns. And that's really where I'm out on Zay. Give me Diggs, give me Pearsall, give me Golden, give me these other guys who presumably, or we haven't seen it yet, have touchdown upside in addition to similar production.
Yeah, I think the issue with Flowers is the offense he's a part of. I don't think it's his individual talent. I think he's a very good player. Spent about 36% in the slot last year. They solidified he was almost 26% target share, like 2 yards per. All he does a lot of stuff good, but this gets back to the situation. This is also the issue with Devonta Smith being a very good player 100%. In such a run-heavy offense, right? So if you could tell me Baltimore is going to get up to 34, 36 pass attempts a game, I have much more interest in Zay Flowers. Baltimore was in 28 pass attempts a game last year. That's such a difference in targets. And I get it. We want guys that are heavily targeted. And this is why we like Pickens so much more, because that Cowboys offense is going to actually just unload the ball. Pittsburgh was not going to do that. So, it worked out well for him. Flowers either needs a change of scenery or they're going to have to just stop running it with Lamar 150 times a game or a year. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon because he is getting a little bit older. Maybe it happens, but at that cost where we're talking about where Pickens goes, a lot of these players at a similar ADP that we like we talk about Travis Hunter, who I think is a very incredible rookie wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy's right there. You have Jalen Waddles. You have Calvin Ridley, all within that range. Your guy, Jameson Williams, kind of at the peak of that right there. Yeah. So you can make the case for Zay Flowers, and I think there's a lot of things you can check off for him that he hits. I think he was top 12 in PFF grade among wide receivers, 83 grade. That's really what you like. He does a lot of things nice, right? It's just the situation around him. This is the thing where fantasy, where you really want in dynasty. When I look at a more dynasty perspective, I like to zoom out and just bet on talent. In redraft, I'm more focused with the situation because it's that year, right? So if you're not getting that immediate production where you're getting that, and he turns into wide receiver 30 again, it really doesn't do much for you for fantasy. So yeah, I think I don't mind him as a dynasty buy. It's just redraft, I'm a little not as bullish just because there's too many talented. That's the pocket of wide receivers we love to target. I don't mind it if you want to go with him and you mix it up, but he's not the guy that I'm essentially targeting in that area. But I think the value makes sense based on everything that he's done up into this. He's basically ascended. He needs to take another step forward. Can he do it? But you need someone else on the offense to fall back. You need Likely, Andrews, those wide receivers to take a step back so Zay can just basically give you a 30+% target share on that offense, and that's asking for so much, man. That's just asking for too much, in my opinion. So, yeah.
And here's the other stat, too. Since week 10, Zay Flowers was only one time above like wide receiver 30-ish, and he was wide receiver 22 since week 10 on. That coincided with what we assume is now a healthy Mark Andrews in the second half of the season, where Mark Andrews went nuclear from week 10, scored 7 touchdowns, and also averaged about, it looks like 5 to 6 targets a game. But the second half of the year was where Mark Andrews made his hay. You can see those numbers decline for Zay Flowers, because when Mark Andrews is struggling, getting back into it, whatever it was for him at the beginning of the season, whether it was, the car accident or coming off the injury from the year before or what have you, Zay Flowers suffered when a healthy Mark Andrews was back and being targeted. We expect Mark Andrews to be healthy again. Mark Andrews is only 29 years old. I know he feels like he's Travis Kelce's age. He's not. He's 5 years younger. And Mark Andrews had a down beginning of the season last year. Scored 7 touchdowns in the last 9 games. So Mark Andrews, absolute stud.
Yeah, I like Mark Andrews, and I think at some point, it will change, because Andrews is getting older. I don't know if it's going to be this year or not, but Zay is definitely the number one option on that offense, but you need him to be the one and almost two option in that offense, and that's the hard part. Either Henry needs to die, which, I don't know, he's old, it could happen, but there's just so many things that need to go right for him, where you have to check off 5 different boxes. That's just the hard part for me. So, yeah, I'm with you, but I think this point right here from Jamie actually makes a lot of sense. In best ball leagues, you don't worry about the variance, you just take the upside. Because he had 9 games under double-digit points in PPR leagues, but you get the upside that's attached to him in the other ones. And it's with Lamar. So, you stack. That totally makes sense in best ball. In redraft managed leagues, I think there's just more risk with him. So, I'm not as interested in him. But, yeah, he's just a good player. It's just unfortunate. Maybe it'll change. Maybe it won't. But at that cost, it's just kind of I don't think he's a must-buy. Let's jump down a little bit into the trio of young wide receivers that have really been popping. It's according to Draft Sharks, these 3 wide receivers are back to back to back. It's Ricky Pearsall, the 706, Odunze, the 707, and Egbuka, 708. All these guys were massively undervalued starting out, where you could get Pearsall and Egbuka in the double-digit rounds. They have come up quite a bit. People have finally caught on to them. And I still think they're basically in that range where we talked about Jameson Williams, Devonta Smith. That's a giant gap of players. I think you can make a case for pretty much any of these guys.
Yep.
I know we talk about Egbuka. Everything's working out. It's all lining up for him to be the locked-in wide receiver 2 when he steps onto the field right away in that offense, because Cade Otton's not very good. He's fine, but he's just not that special. There's Jalen McMillan's injured. Freaking Chris Godwin's out. So it's just him and Mike Evans. I think he's smashed. Pearsall is the only healthy wide receiver on this team. I know Jennings is coming back, but what sold me on Pearsall and why I like him a lot as ADP is the end of the year when he's fully healthy, they just let Pearsall go because he's the true man beater that they have right now. With Ayuk out, they don't have another man beater right now. So he's going to be the guy they're going to rely on third down to win. And he's just the guy that they can take off and do it. So I think he's going to take a massive step forward. And then the other guy, Odunze, he's the top 10 pick. He's a very talented player. That offense was just broken. It was completely broken. And they were asking just people. DJ Moore gave up throughout the season. It's just a disaster. So I think we're going to get more of what he was drafted to be this year. They don't have anyone else in the Chicago Bears offense to play his role. So he's going to be the wide receiver 1. I know DJ Moore is a very talented player, but they have his doppelganger there in Luther Burden. He can do a lot of the same things. So I think he's going to be on the field a lot. He's going to get a lot of targets. You don't have Keenan Allen. He's going to get those dump offs. It's going to move around. So of those 3 guys, how are you going to rank those 3 guys between Pearsall, Egbuka, and Odunze? How do you feel about each of those?
Yeah, are we talking about redraft or are we talking about dynasty?
Let's do redraft since that's what we're focusing on right
now. Egbuka's number 1. I want that early season production on a very good passing offense where he's the main and kind of only show in town. I like Mike Evans, but we saw the fall off happen for Mike Evans last year. Doesn't mean he isn't going to catch touchdowns. Doesn't mean he isn't going to approach 1,000 yards. But Mike Evans is no longer what Mike Evans was 2-3 years ago. We saw that last season, right? And Godwin was the beneficiary. Well, now Egbuka is the beneficiary until Godwin comes back. And then when Godwin comes back, there's no assurance that he's going to be 100%. This team has Super Bowl aspirations. They want Godwin healthy for the second half of the season. So I think they'll slow play him as well. Just build up Egbuka, and he's developing that rapport. I think Egbuka all season is a stud. They'll work Godwin back slowly. And then who knows how they're going to utilize him toward the end of the season when it matters most, but he's going to push them to keep him in the game. So for me, he's the one. In redraft, it's a toss-up for me between Rome and Pearsall. I've previously been going Pearsall, but the Rome Caleb connection is just the drumbeat from that over the last couple of weeks is really kind of helping me to lean Rome. I think Brandon Ayuk comes back by midseason in San Francisco. I think Juwan Jennings is probably back by the end of September, if not early October. Kittle and CMC are healthy. So Ricky Pierce, I'm a little nervous about. I'm not nervous about the talent, just the integration in that offense. And is he better than Brandon Ayuk? I don't think so. Is he better than Jennings? Yes, but maybe not necessarily filling the scheme role. And then you got Kittle there. With Rome, there's a lot of pieces, but a lot of unproven pieces in a brand new, shiny, delicious Ben Johnson offense. So I think I'll go Rome over Pearsall, but it's really close there between those two. But Egbuka is the guy I want. I just think this year he's set up to smash. I was completely wrong on him in Dynasty drafts because I thought he went to a terrible situation just because he's buried. By next season, Egbuka is moving up from wherever he is in Dynasty, startups right now to, probably a seventh-ish round pick, maybe in Superflex to like a 4th round pick. He's an absolute stud. All of the camp reports have been hyping the hell out of him. Baker absolutely loves him. He's going to be a target machine. Emeka Egbuka all the way for me.
Yeah, that part of that middle 7th round I think is a really good section of wide receivers, all who have upside cases where there's downside to him attached to him. Basically, with Romo Odunze, just the offense was a disaster, but Ben Johnson's going to straighten that offense out. We know one thing, like Caleb Williams had the highest pass rating of anybody in the NFL in the preseason. It's preseason, take it with a grain of salt, but that's actually something we want to see. We saw what we wanted to see with that offense. They're having him check down, play a lot sooner. We also like DeAndre Swift. You have convinced me into a DeAndre Swift guy, and I don't know how I feel about this anymore, but good Lord. Drafting him in one of the GT leagues, and I was like, I hate my life right now. But here we are. I think Pearsall, from a dynasty perspective, probably has the lowest upside just because he's the oldest of the group. So he has to really smash to take advantage. Where Egbuka is multiple years younger. Rome Odunze is in between the two. He's a year younger, I think, than Pearsall. But yeah, it's just I don't really have a pick between the three of them. I'll take whoever falls to me. If I have to make a reach and I'm picking, I think early on in the season, I think Pearsall gives you the best bet. Rome Odunze, I think, gives you the safest throughout the entire season. And then Egbuka, I want to see how the back half of the season goes if Godwin's healthy. Because I think if there's a lot of ifs, though, in this situation, because Godwin is dealt with a ton of injuries. He's getting older. If he's the same player he was, it's going to cut into the target share. If he's not, then to your point, Egbuka is like a smash. And so it's all in the same tier, guys. So basically, whoever falls between the three of them, I'm happy to take is the way I look at it. I think it's a really good section of dynasty players to attack.
And one more point on Mike Evans here, right? If we're talking Egbuka, he had a little bit of injury in the middle of the season, but he struggled at the beginning of the season because Godwin was going crazy. I looked into this a few weeks back. It was something like 9.2 targets to 6.6 targets. It was roughly a 3-target difference when Godwin was playing versus when Godwin was out for the second half of the season. Mike Evans absolutely went nuclear over the second half of the season, scored 5 touchdowns in his final 7 games, had 2 games over 100 yards, 1 160, 2 more games hovering around 100 yards, 97 and 89 yards. And in the beginning of the season, he was still kind of getting there, but more so on touchdowns. It wasn't baked in that he was getting those targets, just about 6.8 something targets, again, 3 less. So those targets, those Chris Godwin targets that we love, they're Egbukas at the beginning of the season. I think he hangs on to be relevant as well throughout the whole season.
Yeah, I think the demise of Mike Evans is kind of over-exaggerated because if you look at his stats across the season, second half of the year, he was awesome. He was a monster. Every game was double digits from week 13 on, double-digit PPR points. He had 4 20-plus point game performances and 1 30-plus point game performance. So he was just cooking. And like if you look at his end of the season stats, 2.44 yards per route run. His yards per target were almost 10. Again, he's a touchdown machine. So he's one of the few players like wide receivers in the NFL. I'm not looking to discount his touchdowns because his touchdown rate is going to be above average every season. He's not going to give you 12 or 11, but he'll give you 6 at a minimum, more than likely, and he can push up into there. It's just his expected role was really good. He was top 12. It will come to an end, though. He's going on 33 this year. I don't know when it's happening, but it's going to happen. It might happen this year where Egbuka slowly passes him. By the end of the year, he could be the guy that's just doing the Chris Godwin thing that we love to see. So, I'm with you. I think Egbuka is a really good player to set for a long time to smash. Before we get into our last kind of our late wide receiver pickup we'll talk about, let's get into this team really quick right here. Rate this 12-man PPR. They have Burrow, Pollard, Aaron Jones, Mason, depending on who starts. I'll start Aaron Jones. But Amon-Ra, BTJ, LaPorta, JSN, Eagles defense, and kickers. My dynasty brain cannot stand defense and kickers, but we're back into it. Maybe we got to do it. Took the best running backs late. This wide receiver room is your bread and butter. You have Amon-Ra, you have JSN, you have BTJ. Like, you were stacked out there. What kind of stands out of this team besides the wide receiver room? Because that's the cherry on top. How do you feel about the team overall, Jeremy?
Yeah, I love the team. I wish he would have waited on tight end because Sam LaPorta for me is just too costly for what I think he's going to do. A lot of that coincides with my Jameson Williams love. But at the same time, Sam LaPorta could very easily be tight end 6 in this offense. I just don't think he has the opportunity to be a top 4 guy this season. And I think you might have been the one who brought it up a few weeks ago. It could have been SC, I forget. But someone had said that we're banking, LaPorta's future production on his rookie year where he went nuclear and was the tight end 1. And that just seems so logical because it doesn't make sense to me why he's going in the 6th round. So because of that one pick, I'll give you the A and not the A+, but you got to love the rest of this team. You got the Vikings RB of your choice. I prefer Mason, but PPR, Aaron Jones makes a lot of sense, of course. Yeah. Pollard, great value there. Your wide receivers, of course. You got a great defense, good kicker on a great team. And then Joe Burrow. So I love it. But I'll ding you slightly for the tight end, but it's really hard. LaPorta's going to be fine.
Yeah, waiting as long as you did on running back and still getting someone as impactful as Pollard. Like, I think Pollard's one of the most discounted running backs at his cost. Like, he should be multiple round higher. I think he's kind of how we were talking about running backs like a week or two ago. Is Pollard was my guy. Your guy was Swift. I think with both of those guys, you can make the case for team massively up. Aaron Jones is Mason. It's just preference. I think Jones's role is more secure PPR. He gets the catches. Mason more needs the touchdowns, right? But they're going to be similar. Like, they've been hyping up Mason all offseason. So as long as he's healthy, should have a really good role. I think you did a really good job. I'm right there with Jeremy. Like, it's awesome. And segueing to Jamie's question, Dobbins was not good last year. Like, he was getting touches. That's the only good thing for Dobbins. So I'll take the efficiency guy over the guy that is also a backup, and we don't know how much he's going to play. If RJ Harvey's good, Dobbins is going to sit his butt on the bench. Like, that's how I feel that offense is going to go. Do you prefer? I'm assuming you prefer Mason to Dobbins.
I do. I think Dobbins is RJ Harvey insurance. That said, he probably has a role the first couple of weeks as Harvey gets fully integrated, mentally into this offense. I think physically he's fine, but Sean Payton is going to ask his running backs to do a little bit extra as compared to other running backs in the league. So, Harvey's going to take 4, maybe even 6 weeks to get fully integrated. But once he does, it's wheels up for him. Hopefully for J.K. Dobbins, he stays healthy, but this was kind of like a Najee Hampton situation. Obviously that's changed, but you got the vet. He's going to be relevant early, and then he's going to fade and cede touches to the young stud eventually. So Mason, I think he's technically the young stud in the backfield. So he's got the opportunity to be relevant and have a consistent role all season long. These offenses are roughly the same to me. So give me Mason by a lot.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a thorn in the side of Aaron Jones owners all season. Like, that's kind of a good way to describe it. Yeah, like, my thing on LaPorta is I have him as like a back end tight end 1. Like, I've been lower on him last 2 years. I think he's fine, but like, it's just a floor thing. I don't see the ceiling case for him unless you're going to get double-digit touchdowns. Like we talked about, like what Andrews did last year. You're going to need something along those lines where he's just banking you touchdowns just because. But like I've always said this since James Williams broke out. Why would you give it to LaPorta when you can give it to the 4-3 freak on the field? Not including Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have Amon-Ra the true targeter. Then you're like, we have this guy that just moves different from everybody else. It's like Tyreek kind of in his prime, right? So give him the ball. Let him do things. As opposed to this like tight end who's not a super freak athlete. Like once I saw those two play, I was like, I'm not. I'm lower on the board.
And they love Tesla too. So if he gets on the field and they start doing more 3 wide receiver sets, and targeting that third wide receiver a little bit more, which Jared Goff has been prone to do in the past. I mean, what was it, a couple of years ago? The name is failing me. That third wide receiver on Detroit, who's always there. He returned kicks as well. I'll have to find it later in the show. But Goff has utilized that third wide receiver. We saw Tim Patrick have a game or two last season as well, but Tim Patrick is cooked, I think. So the fact that Tesla is cutting people up and could have a minor role, I think that only takes away from LaPorta. JMO's ascension only takes away from LaPorta. Maybe Amon-Ra has, slightly fewer targets, but not, we're not going to go crazy. He's still a first round talent. Jahmyr Gibbs going to get his. So I think LaPorta is the guy who fails here. If I'm a betting man.
Yeah, and if that happens, where they're going through wide receiver sets a lot, which maybe they could because new offensive coordinator, LaPorta's not the best blocking tight end in the world. They're also they have a few blocking tight ends on there where I know last year they had Wright and a few other guys. They might take him off the field to let him just rest on those situations. So that entirely could be another way that works out for him. So I think it's fine. I just view him as a more back end tight end one. It's okay. He's not going to kill you, but I just don't think he's going to win you anything.
Right. Agree. And he's touchdown dependent, right? I mean, that's the thing that concerns us about these tight ends, because he's so touchdown dependent and not necessarily getting you the heavy volume. He did at the end of last season, but the beginning of the last season, he kind of disappeared. The problem becomes he's going to spike for you, but he's going to fall away for you in some weeks. I would much prefer a guy like Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, David Njoku. These are guys Tyler Warren. These are guys who are going later who should have more consistency in their offenses than LaPorta.
Yep, I'm 100% with you. That's my whole difference with him. If he's in that group, if he's falling the 8th, 9th round, it's fine. Pull trigger on him because it's kind of similar. I don't mind him there. Hey, Albert, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you joining us. You're going to join us for the discounted wide receivers that are basically free. We're going to talk about it. So,
there you go.
Speaking of wide receivers, we're going to talk about Keenan Allen and we're going to talk about Hunter Renfrow as two guys that Allen's kind of taken off. People are like, they recognize the name. They remember what we did last year. So he's pushing over 50%. Renfrow is basically free. How do you feel about these late adds to rosters? Do you have any interest in either one of them for the Carolina Panthers or the freaking Chargers?
Well, Renfrow is kind of my pick here. He's available. I forget what we said. It was something like 2% of leagues, or he's only taken in 2% of leagues right now. Hunter Renfrow is a guy you can run to your waiver wire right now, assuming you have deep benches. If you've got a 5-man bench, don't go out and get Hunter Renfrow. Let him rot. But if you got like 8-man benches, in redraft, go ahead and pick him up. If you got a deep dynasty roster, go ahead and stash him if he's available. Hunter Renfrow is better than Xavier Legette right now. He was cooking dudes this preseason. I just think that there's issues with, the fact that he was injured, the fact that he was out of football for a while. He was cut and then re-signed. So there's that risk of nobody else really went out and grabbed Hunter Renfrow. They were able to easily re-sign him. But Jalen Coker's on IR. Something else came out a little earlier today or yesterday that was saying that Dave Canales has been upset with Coker's conditioning. Maybe that's what led to all of these, injuries and the things that happened very quickly for Jalen Coker fans and for the Carolina Panthers. But it's basically Teteroa McMillan, Chuba Hubbard. Love both of those players for fantasy. But then who's number 3? Is it Jatavian Sanders? How healthy is he? He looked good in limited work, but I don't know. Is it Tommy Tremble? It is not. Is it Xavier Legette? It hasn't been. So I think Hunter Renfrow is just as good of a bet as any of those other guys I just mentioned. And he looked really good in camp this season, to the point where he could be kind of a short area guy and take over for that production that we were expecting from Adam Thielen, which isn't phenomenal, but he can be a solid flex for you as long as Jalen Coker's out.
Yeah, it's like David Moore's basically penciled in as their other starting wide receiver, and he's just a kind of a guy that's been thrown around a bunch of teams. He was an ex-Seahawk. He's nothing special, and he's not really going to be a targeter. They also have Jimmy Horn Jr., who's a guy that they just drafted late this year. I think he's around 6. He's just a guy that's kind of just really undersized, not fast. He's just a small wide receiver. I think, he's probably not going to be much of anything. So it just really tells you how this team is going to feature Tet. Tet's going to be dominating targets. Chuba Hubbard's going to be dominating touches. And then maybe Hunter Renfrow could be in that third guy after those two guys, because The Pickens, like that tight end room is probably one of the worst in the NFL. Like I hate to say it, like it's sorry Panthers fans, but it's not good. So yeah, you could see Hunter Renfrow come in and earn targets out of the slot. Maybe they move Xavier to get outside again, put him on the outside because he's a bigger body guy, right? I don't think they want David Moore playing in the outside. Maybe they do. Where you could see Renfrow being viable for you, particularly on teams that are like start 3 wide receivers and you kind of have a weaker wide receiver room. I think those redraft builds are the perfect one to scoop him up because Keenan Allen's been basically gone. So if you can get Renfrow, I'm all aboard with doing that. I mean, I get it, but it's very rare to see NFL teams like play shadow defenses in the NFL anymore because they'll mix and match. They'll move guys across the field. So unless you're going to have freaking the cornerbacks, the Broncos cornerbacks are the best in the NFL, but unless you're going to have them shadowing across the field and moving along, they'll usually do sides of the field. And that's how they kind of play this with Patrick Surtain. I don't think he's going to follow Tet. Maybe he does. That's going to open stuff up for other guys because you're moving him around. They're changing their defense. We'll see. I don't know. I tend not to overreact to basically the shadow coverages because today's NFL is a little bit different where compared to 5-10 years ago where you had guys just lining up across from each other. It's a little different than what it is. I'm not too worried about Tet. If you have Tet, you just play him. Like it's just that simple to me.
And Jahdae Barron we like, but I think that what are they going to do? Are they going to bring what's his name Surtain into the slot? If Tet is moving around the field, you got to account for Chuba. You got to account for some of these other guys. So it's not, without Coker out there, it's not something you're really worried about. But I'm not worried about Tet either. I think he's going to get the volume. Does he have a phenomenal game against Denver? Maybe not. But getting the volume will be there. He'll have 8 targets in week 1. Also, Denver is going to crush this Carolina defense. They're going to have to throw the ball. He'll have minimum 8 targets in week 1.
Yeah, I think so as well, too. I think in situations like that where it gets so out of hand, which I don't know if it's going to because Bryce Young really turned it on, but if that's the case, Terrell McMillan will be all over the place and he will get his targets. So yeah, I'm not too worried about him. But yeah, you just lower his ceiling and floor a little bit in week 1. So I'll probably push him into like the mid-20s in my wide receiver rankings for week 1. Haven't solidified them yet. That reminds me I need to finish those. But yeah, he'll be in that range for me. Let's go and talk about kind of running backs because this is the thing that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Before we do, I found my Detroit Lions of a few years ago, wide receiver 3. That is Khalif Raymond, 64 targets in 2022, 44 targets in 2023. If Isaac Tesla gets to that level, we're taking away from somewhere. JMO's efficient, but they love him. That I'm worried about Sam LaPorta.
Yeah, we both are. Like I've just been lower on the last 2 years because he got a gap last year in ADP where he was the clear wide tight end one, and I was like, I think we're putting the cart in front of the horse. And then this last season he was okay, but yeah, he still is just like pushed up because of like we talked about this. He was that tight end one. Everyone's like, oh, he was the tight end one, and I was like, yeah, it is what it is. Actually, before we do that, let's do a little promo for our friends at Fast Draft. If you know Fast Draft, if you have not used it, we highly recommend checking it out. There's a lot of fun best ball content they over here. Looking across its Origins, the Flex 4, Flex 6, a lot of cool formats. So we are an affiliate. We're happy to recommend them. If you type in the code FFU, you will get 100% deposit match up to your $25 on your first time bidding. Please go take advantage of that. It's a fun way to experience fantasy in a different aspect. We like it. We enjoy it. So we're like, we're going to keep talking about it. With that, let's talk about the most important thing that everybody likes. This was Jordan Mason last year, who I was pounding the table for last offseason. It worked out better than I thought it would. But running backs that are basically afterthoughts on redraft rosters where you're just looking and you're like, I need a running back. There's a few of these guys that kind of caught our attention where we're like, you know what? These guys stand out to us. We're going to talk about your guy, Sean Tucker. We're going to talk about Dameon Pierce. And we're going to talk about Emanuel Wilson. Who would you like to talk about first, Jeremy?
Well, let's talk about my guy, Sean Tucker. We already talked about Emeka Egbuka. We talked about this running game. You referenced the fact that Rachaad White has really not been healthy all offseason. He's got a groin. He's probably going to play hyper efficient in the passing game. They need him. And we know Bucky's the guy. But Sean Tucker is one of these grab and stash guys because he can replace either player. He's not going to be as good as either player with what they do well. In White and in Bucky Irving. But if Bucky Irving goes down, we know it's not going to be Rachaad White. Sean Tucker looked great in limited action a few times last season. I think he even ran for over 100 yards in one game. Sean Tucker is a stud. And he's one of these guys who is like just sitting back there who can play behind guys who just happen to be better in a functional offense. This is a Tyler Algier behind Bijan Robinson. There's no way that Sean Tucker or Algier are getting in the game ahead of these guys. But if these guys ahead of them go down, they're going to absolutely be borderline RB1s, but certainly RB2 floors for those guys. Those are the guys you want on your roster.
Yeah, I think with Rachaad, like even though how much we despise Rachaad White for his inefficiency on the ground, he still had almost 200 touches last year. Like I don't think people realize how involved he was. Even in the back off when Bucky really got going, he was still getting double-digit carries. It really ended towards the end of the year where they were like, all right, this is the Bucky show. But even like week 10 to week 15, they were all double-digit carries that week. He saw multiple targets in the majority of those games. He was still involved. So I know we love Bucky, but he's not going to be the guy you're just going to just give all the workload in the team because he's tiny. You want to keep him safe. So he's going to be in more efficiency player similar to Devon Achane, who we love Devon Achane as well. We think Bucky Irving's a really talented player. These guys are not going to get 25, 30 touches a game. That's not how they're going to do this, right? If they do, they're knocking on injuries doors asking for that. So they're going to take some of the load off of them. So these guys can be viable for you. And I think Sean Tucker, as long as Rachaad White's dealing with his groin injury, he can get you through. And if you basically punt a running back, he's a running back where you just take a shot on, stash him on your bench, see how it goes. If you're feeling really risky, you could play him in that opening week 1. I don't know if you want to do that, but there's a case to be made that he will be involved for you. I think he's a good bet, man. He's at roster. What did we say? I can't remember. It's a very low percentage of rosters on Sleeper. Let me look it up as I'm solving that. Yeah. Let's see. He is on. Give me 1 second. I know this is great stuff here. 5% of rosters, folks, in redraft. So he's only rostered on 5% of rosters. It's dirt cheap. Let's talk about another injury situation in Green Bay. This time it is Mr. Lloyd, who cannot stay healthy to save his life. His groin, hamstrings, they're all just failing him. So get in the hyperbaric chamber, rest up. I know that's Mike's guy. I am sorry, Mike. He cannot stay healthy. But that opens up a spot for Emanuel Wilson, who last year was viable on this team because we talked about guys who were getting the rock. We found it a bunch. That was Josh Jacobs last year. The Packers really relied on him because their wide receivers were just not capable of doing what they wanted. So it was the Josh Jacobs show, and Josh Jacobs had a really good season last year. I think he's top 3 running back. On top of that, they led the NFL in basically running back opportunities. They were near the lead, and that meant there was room for other running backs to see this. So the frustrating thing about Josh Jacobs, he didn't really get the carry or the targets we were looking for last year, and that opened up the door for the other backups they had, where it was like Patrick Taylor or Emanuel Wilson, where these guys were getting on the field in third down. They were playing roles. And I know that they're going to be in these really tight games because they just brought one of the best defenders in the NFL. Their defense is going to take a step forward. They do not want to air it out. Like that seems clear to me with Green Bay. Like they don't want to throw it 35, 40 times a game. This is leading to running back usage. And then we talk about, if God forbid something happens to Josh Jacobs, you're going to have Emanuel Wilson in like a nice role. So I think another guy that's barely rostered, people aren't really paying attention to him because everyone was taking Lloyd. But we still haven't adjusted to the injury news, even though it should, because he's on IR. That's at least the first month of the NFL. So you can have Emanuel Wilson be viable for you. So you go pick up Emanuel Wilson. I think he could play a role for you. And he could be a guy that gives you passing down work where he's, RB3, RB4 for you. So I don't mind Emanuel Wilson. What do you think about Emanuel Wilson as far as picking him up in rosters?
Yeah, 100%. Love that call. I mean, I hope Marshawn Lloyd, for the sake of my Marshawn Lloyd bags in Dynasty, comes back and is healthy and does the things that we expect him to do. But all of these guys are behind Josh Jacobs. Like you said, Jacobs is been a model of consistency because he's always on the damn field. He's always healthy. But in the event that Jacobs goes down, aging up again, 1 extra season here, it's going to be really interesting to see who takes over if both Wilson and Lloyd are healthy. Wilson's that consistent guy, but at the same time, you mentioned the Green Bay Packers. We know they don't want to throw 40 times a game because they're more interested in winning football games. Here's the Green Bay Packers record last year: 11-6, then 9-8, 8-9, some down seasons, but then 13-4, 13-3, 13-3. All they want to do is win games. This team is highly capable. And then this is what I've been talking about all in the last couple of days. Micah Parsons to this defense drastically improves the defense. And because Matt LaFleur and company want to win, they're absolutely not going to air the ball out 40 times a game. This is going to be more of a ground and pound conservative team as an approach. I don't love Matthew Golden anymore as much as I love Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft. Let's keep it close to the vest. So if they're doing that, maybe Jacobs gets a little less run. We need an RB2. If Jacobs gets hurt because he's getting more run, we got Emanuel Wilson stepping in. So I like this call.
Yeah, Jacobs is a really tough running back. He's more than likely not going to miss an extended period of time. But if he's hampered and he's struggling with an injury while he's playing, they're going to take a little bit off of him because he's not as good of a player in that situation. So you can get on the field that way. I think it's a really good. So those are two of the running back rooms where you're just targeting the backups where there's already an injury there. There's already an injury situation where this is elevating in there. You get another injury, then become a guy you can actually put in your lineup to start him and not worry about it. The third guy we're going to talk about, and this is just a cluster of a backfield right now, is the Houston Texans. It's Dameon Pierce, and I'll make the case for Woody Marks as well, the rookie running back. They're kind of different players. Dameon Pierce is battling Nick Chubb for early down work. Woody Marks is more going to be the passing down back on that team, along with Dario Gumbuwale. They're all kind of rotating. You want somebody to elevate themselves. I know they did not play Nick Chubb a lot early in the preseason, but that meant Dameon Pierce was on the field. He was getting early looks in those first couple of drives they had. So I think it's something you should take a shot on with Dameon Pierce. I don't know if it's going to work out or if you prefer Woody Marks, either one of those guys. We're just really betting on that backfield because it's going to be a good offense. There's plenty of opportunity because, honestly, I don't know if and when Joe Mixon ever returns this year. That injury behind the scenes sounds pretty bad, so he might miss the majority of the year. It sounds like there's a lot of things that they kept close to the vest and it finally leaked out. And we're like, oh, this is way worse than we thought. So, I'm curious your take on how you're attacking this, the Houston Texans backfield. Is there anyone particular, or is it Dameon Pierce? You looking at Woody Marks, or are you going with the old man Nick Chubb?
I don't care. Pick your flavor. This is like Jacksonville for me, but in a lesser version because I think those guys have more volume ahead. But yeah, if you want Woody Marks, especially, because you think he's going to kind of take over the backfield in the second half. Of course, this is all assuming Joe Mixon doesn't come back, which seems likely at this point. Go for Woody Marks. He's going later, but 21% rostered in redraft leagues as opposed to the 17% roster that Dameon Pierce is. So he's likely more available to you. Dameon Pierce is just the guy that people aren't really talking about. He's a good enough back, but if he's able to see the volume, if Nick Chubb is washed like his coach seems to think he is based on some of those comments, I think really the comments about Nick Chubb were more like, you would expect Nick Chubb to be miles ahead of Woody Marks and Dameon Pierce, and he just isn't anymore. So that really means that this backfield is truly ambiguous. And then, of course, you have, to your point on Joe Mixon, Nick Caserio came out 4 days ago and would not respond to the question of when Joe Mixon was going to suit up this season. Obviously, he's out for the first 4 games, but the quote was, "We're going to take it one day at a time with Joe Mixon." And he hasn't practiced at all. He's going to be reevaluated after 4 weeks. And then we'll see if this is a quote, but we'll see was the response that Caserio gave when he was asked if Mixon will play in 2025. So go get a Texan. Go get a Texan RB. And don't draft Joe Mixon. If you hadn't draft, don't do it.
I don't think you can draft Joe Mixon. I literally don't. Particularly because the ADP is way too goddamn high. It is not a just out sleeper. He's popping up in the 4th round. Yeah. I'm like, are you kidding me? I would maybe think about him in the 12th round. Like, oh, okay. Crazy. But the 4th rounds, what are we doing here, folks? This is asinine. Joe Mixon is 3rd among active running backs in touches in the NFL. It's, he's been heavily used throughout his career. You're also dealing with another guy, Nick Chubb. Heavy usage, severe injuries, like his knee is just shredded. This guy is just not human. The fact that he's even able to play and be on the field. So it just shows you how dire that situation is. They're just looking for anybody. It could be a situation where Nick Chubb starts. Nick Chubb's really bad. They're like, screw it. We'll give it to Dameon Pierce. We'll let him kind of take over that role. So they could change it out. It reminds me of Adrian Peterson years ago where he was on his last legs. They were trying to give him the rock, but it just looked so bad. They're like, all right, let's just not do this anymore. I love Nick Chubb. I think he's one of the best players we've seen last decade, but Injuries, man. It happens to everybody. They're not generous. So yeah, I'm with you. Let's just take whichever one you want. You want to go Dameon Pierce, you want to go Woody Marks, go for that. But yeah, that's kind of just shows you those situations. We just want those discount running backs. Is there anybody else before we get out of here? Is there anybody else you have an eye on, you've been thinking about that you want to make the hype case for, or are you kind of good with the guys we listed today?
I'm pretty good. I got to think about this one because, well, I'm going to look at the trend list here real quick. Let's talk for a second because he's only 50% rostered somehow. Dylan Sampson. What are you doing? Get Dylan Sampson on your team. Like, Dylan Sampson needs to be on your team. If he is, go check right now. If you have drafted your team and Dylan Sampson has not been drafted, go pick him up immediately. He's probably the starter week 1. But let's stick with the Browns. Joe Flacco, if you've got an iffy quarterback situation and you want to stream quarterbacks, maybe you waited on quarterback and you ended up with like a Justin Fields. Forget Justin Fields for week 1. Just go pick up Joe Flacco. The Browns play the Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to do whatever the hell they want on offense. It's going to be one of 2 times this season the Browns do whatever they want on offense. The other time is when they play the Cincinnati Bengals again. So go ahead and get yourself some Dylan Sampson. Absolutely. If you need a quarterback, go get Joe Flacco. Those are guys that I want on my team, but especially for week 1. Jerome Ford.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here with Dylan Sampson. I had him as a top 5 running back pre-draft in this class, and he did not get the draft capital, but man, he does a lot of things right, and you will like him. I know Quinshon Judkins has the hype and all of that stuff. I don't see much difference for those 2 players. And the fact is he's not even on the roster. Like, you can't go out on Quinshon Judkins. You don't know when it's going to come. I'm sure they'll sign him at some point, but I think it's going to more impact Jerome Ford than it is Dylan Sampson. I think Dylan Sampson is going to have a role throughout the entire year. I think that's a great call. The roster, I'm going to be drafting him tonight. FYI, if anybody left this in my leagues. Tillman. I mean, it's so tough with Tillman.
Week 1.
Yeah, you can do it. Like, he's just an outside wide receiver. Flacco is the one guy that's going to make it work for him because he's not afraid to chuck it. But so Jerry Jeudy, it's David Njoku, and then it's potentially Tillman. We'll see. Could work out. I just think he's a quality wide receiver. So, yeah, I don't mind it. We're basically saying there's a lot of discount on the whole Browns offense, understandably, because that quarterback situation is so bad. But if Joe Flacco plays the entire year, it probably won't happen. But if it does, you're going to get a lot of fantasy points for that team because Joe Flacco will support that. So, yeah, Browns are on an offense you can bet in Dynasty because people do not want to touch them right now, understandably. So, but yeah, on that note, we're pushing an hour. So, we're going to kick rocks and get on out of here. So just remember, folks, we got a lot of content coming this week up until the season starts. Then on Saturday, Sunday, we'll do the weekend. We'll do Roundtable Saturday. Sunday, we'll do our first sit start so of the year, week 1. A lot of fun stuff going on. And then, we have everything. Jeremy's going to be producing content during the week. We have SE doing Debbie Planet. There's a lot of stuff coming out of this channel. So hopefully if you have not subscribed and please do that. We appreciate all the support. Well, it depends who you have on your bench. I will say that from Trump Force. If you want to throw that in quickly, we will answer it. If not, we'll just, we'll see. Because I think, So if you're looking for somebody that you want to play as opposed to like a stash guy, then just grab Sampson. Because if you need the guy of the week 1, play him. There's plenty of these guys you could rotate through. So, a lot of these guys will probably get dropped week 1. You pick somebody up. So, if you're looking for play him. If not, it's you know what I'm saying. So, that's that. Yeah, otherwise, for Jeremy, myself, I think we're going to get out of here, folks. So, take care. Hopefully, enjoy your Sundays. And, look forward to crushing in week 1. And hopefully, we get you there. So, for us two and the rest of the FFU, we will see you later. Take care, folks.
FFU.